there is a great contrast here between how Christ leads us and how Satan leads us. And I want you to think about the fact that everybody in this room, no matter how powerful you are, you follow somebody. You either follow Christ, you either follow God and His ways, or you follow the devil and his ways. We are in 1 Samuel 22, so I'd love for you guys to turn there. I am going to tell you right now that one of the hard parts sometimes about preaching through the Bible verse by verse is that you come to passages and you would skip them, probably. Like if I had a choice, I would probably skip this story. And the reason why I would skip this story is because it's incredibly gruesome. It's difficult to read. It's difficult to kind of hear the story that happens behind this. But it's in the Bible for a reason. And I think God wants to teach us something out of this, okay? But this is a tough story to read. You know, one of the things that I think all of us need to come to grasp with is that just because I do the right thing my entire life, doesn't mean that life's always going to go well for me. You know, I think there is a concept out there that says that, you know, if you do good things, then good things will happen to you, karma or something like that. Or even it spills into the Christian church a little bit, where we talk a little bit about the fact that, you know, if you do all the right things, then God will take care of you. And there's an element of that. There's a truth in that. But I would say this, there's a whole lot of people who have done the right thing, and it didn't end well for them. Now, it ended well for them in the fact that they went to heaven, and now they're with God. So in the end, it ends well. But maybe down here, they really had some difficult times. You know, if you read Hebrews 11, which is Hebrews 11 is called the chapter of faith. In Hebrews 11, I mean, there were people that conquered armies, and they did great things, and they had great victories. And then on the flip side of that, if you read the end of Hebrews 11, it's also, there's people that had great faith, and it got them sawed in half, and it got them eaten by animals. And I mean, this is how it ended up for them. So I don't know my path. I mean, to this point, you know, my God has shown me a lot of grace and favor, and my past's been pretty good, but I don't know what the future path holds. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. But the important thing is that I stay faithful to God and have faith in God and do the right thing no matter what it costs me. That's the important. No, let me put it this way. No matter what it costs me on this earth. All right? Because if you stay faithful to God on this earth, there is great rewards waiting for you in heaven. All right? So 1 Samuel 22 is about, there's three main characters in this story. There's Saul, there is David, and then there is the high priest at the time, Ahimelech, all right? So I've titled the sermon today, Traits of the Worst and Best Leaders. So I'm going to look at the leadership of Saul and then the leadership of Ahimelech and David. Those are the best. The worst is Saul. There's three things that I want you to get from the sermon today. And if you are a follower, I want you to, when you kind of listen through the sermon, I want you to look for these characteristics to avoid or follow in a leader. So what I mean by that is, a lot of us in this room have choices on who we can follow. You know, there is 380 some churches in Topeka. So you really have a choice on who you can have as your leader, as far as maybe in the church realm is concerned. Okay, you want to avoid leaders that are like Saul. Okay, you want to follow leaders that are like Ahimelech and David. So I want you to kind of think of it that way. You maybe don't run a company. You maybe work for a company. You maybe have a boss. You may want to quit your job and work for somebody else, if I can be honest with you. That there are certain leaders that you want to stay away from, and that's kind of one of the first things I want you to do. If you're a follower, look for these characteristics to avoid, or if you find these in a person, I want to follow this individual because they have these characteristics of David and Ahimelech. If you're a leader, and maybe you have people under you, I want you to honestly do an evaluation of yourself. What kind of leader are you? Which one of these men am I like? Because I think that's an important trait to analyze and look at. So that's the second thing I want you to do, kind of listening to this sermon. Then the third thing is there is a great contrast here between how Christ leads us and how Satan leads us. And I want you to think about the fact that everybody in this room, no matter how powerful you are, you follow somebody. You either follow Christ, you either follow God and his ways, or you follow the devil and his ways. And the devil leads a certain way and Christ leads a different way. Which one are you following? So those are the three things I kind of want you to think about when you're hearing this sermon today. So what we're going to do is this. I'm going to walk through the story. Then I'm going to come back and give you the points. The points are not going to take long, so I don't want you to freak out on me, okay? Because you're going to say, it's 10:05, and we ain't even got to the points yet, and he's got 14 of them. So just hang with me, okay? So we're just going to walk through the story, then I'll come back and give you the points kind of rapid fire, all right? So let's begin reading in verse number 6. When Saul heard that David and the men who were with him had been discovered. Remember, David is hiding in the cave of Adullam. That's where he was. And then God told him to go to Judah. So now he has this band of hodgepodge guys, 400 of them, with his family. They're on the run, okay? Saul gets word about where they're at. And this is what he says. Now Saul was staying in Gibeah. He was staying in Gibeah, and he's sitting under a tree in Ramah with a spear in his hand and all his servants standing about him. So picture Saul kind of sitting there. Every time we see Saul, he's got the spear in his hand, doesn't he? And that's an intimidation tool, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Verse 7, then Saul said to his servants who stood about him, "Hear now, you Benjamites." He's putting them down. Hear now, you Benjamites. Now, remember, Saul is from the tribe of Benjamin. So who is in his inner circle? Well, all these cronies, right? Everybody that he grew up with, everybody that he's close to, because he doesn't refer to the tribe of Israel. He doesn't refer to the rest. He's just referring to the Benjamites. So his kind of inner circle is probably these people that he grew up with, he's surrounding himself with. So he kind of speaks to them in a degrading way. Hear now, you Benjamites. Will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? Once again, notice that he will not call David by his name. He continues to call him the son of Jesse. He will not even refer to him or give him the dignity of calling him by his name. And then he says, will the son of Jesse, when he reigns, take care of you like I have taken care of you? Will he put you in positions of authority? Will he give you land? Will he give you cattle? So he's reminding them of what he has done for them. Then he says in verse number 8, all of you have conspired against me, and there is no one who reveals to me that my son has made a covenant with the son of Jesse, and there is not one of you who is sorry for me or reveals to me that my son has stirred up my servants against me to lie in wait as it is this day. Wah, 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 right? He's having a big pity party, and he's wanting them to feel sorry for him. And he's like, all of you are against me. And isn't that a person who tends to be insecure? He tends to label everybody as against them. Well, these guys have not been against him. They've been right by Saul's side, but he's over-exaggerating here. Verse 9, then answered Doeg the Edomite. Now, who is Doeg? Doeg is the guy that was at the temple when David showed up. Remember, David showed up and he said, I'm on business with the king. I need some protection, and I need something to eat. Remember? And so Steve talked to you about how that he gave them the showbread. He gave them the showbread to eat, and he gave them Goliath's sword. And Doeg was kind of lurking. Now, why is Doeg even there? Not real sure. But he's kind of lurking, and he sees this. And so now Doeg is back with Saul, and he says, Doeg, the Edomite, who was set over the servants of Saul, said, I saw the son of Jesse going to Nob to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub. And he inquired of the Lord for him, gave him provisions, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Now this is a lie. Remember, he did not go to inquire of the Lord. He just came and made up a story because David lied, remember? David lied and said that he was on business from the king. He wanted food and protection. He did not go to the priest and say, hey, what should I do? He did not seek direction. He did not ask the priest to pray about it. He just came and saying, this is what's going on. He was not honest with the priest, but Doeg paints it like David showed up, he asked the priest gave him some direction, so he's trying to paint Ahimelech as in kind of on David's side. All right? So verse 11, so the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, and the priests who were in Nob, and they all came to the king. So what Saul is enraged, and he says, I want to talk to the high priest. So he says, I want all of them to come, all of the priests to come. And so they all came. And Saul said, verse 12, hear now, son of Ahitub. Do you see a pattern here? See, Saul will not call anybody by their name. He just refers to everybody in a degrading, it's not a degrading to be a son of somebody, but he just won't give them the reverence due their name. So he says, so he's talking now to the high priest, and he says, hear now, son of Ahitub. He answered, here I am, my lord. So respect, right? Then Saul said to him, why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in that you have given him bread and a sword and have inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait as it is this day? So he's mad, man. He's seeing things. He is in a bad place. He's imagining things. He's saying, okay, you and David are in this little scheme together. And I know it. I figured it out. Now, is this a dangerous place to go? We all think we know what's going on, but half the time, we got no clue. And when you think you know what's going on, and then you make truth statements based on assumptions, that is a really bad place to be. So, look, we've all done it, and I get it. You know, and I'm probably the chiefest of you all. Because I'll sit out here and look at you, and I'll see somebody that looks like they're taking a nap, and I'm like, well, they must be really bored. Okay, maybe they were up all night. Maybe they're taking medication. They can't, and this is where the Bible says that we should always give people the benefit of the doubt until kind of proven otherwise. So I want to, as a Christian, as a Christ follower, I want to think the best of you, not the worst of you. But a lot of times what we do is, man, we see stuff and we think the worst. We immediately go to the worst. We think the worst of people. Now sometimes, and oftentimes maybe it proves to be true, but that's not how we should look at people. And this is how Saul is. Saul is thinking the worst. You're doing a conspiracy plan with the son of David, and he's already, or son of Jesse, David. He's already putting this together. And he's established it as truth in your house. Now, how does Ahimelech respond to this in verse 14? So Ahimelech answered the king and said, and who among all your servants is as faithful as David? Now, it's interesting. He does not defend himself. What does he immediately do? He goes and defends David. This is a good man. Because I would have said, whoa, let's talk about me. Right? But he doesn't do that. He says, look, Saul, who is as good a servant as David? He's like, bro, you need some perspective. David's the best thing that's ever happened to Israel. I mean, he killed Goliath. Every time he goes out and fights a battle, we win. Who's better than David? You've lost perspective, man. He says, who among your servants is as faithful as David, and who is the king's son-in-law? He goes, isn't he in your family? Isn't he married to your daughter? Who goes at your bidding and is honorable in your house? And then he says, verse 15, did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Far be it from me, because I didn't do that. I didn't inquire of God for him. Let not the king impute anything to his servant or to any in the house of my father, for your servant knew nothing of this, little or much. Now remember, Ahimelech was skeptical. Like he's like, why are you here, David? This is weird. But he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know that there's this great conflict between Saul and David. And that's what he's kind of pleading his own innocence. He's like, look, I didn't know that there was a problem. I didn't know you guys were at odds. I was just helping David out. I mean, David's the man. David's the man in Israel, which I'm sure that's made Saul even madder. Right? So Saul, he's going to have some perspective, right? He's going to step back and he's going to go, oh, you're right, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I drug you all the way out here. I shouldn't have done that. You know, I know that you're just kind of a middle person. You didn't know that me and David are having issues. Is that how he's going to respond? Sadly, no. Listen to what he says in verse 16. And the king said, you shall surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your house. Okay, now the king is powerful, but the last time I checked, he was not the judge. Right? If Ahimelech is supposed to be killed because of an act that he has done, then he's supposed to go before a judge. And that judge will decide his fate. Saul is a king. He's not a judge. He's out of line here. He's basically judge, jury, and executioner. All right? So he says, so I've heard your two statements, and I've decided that you are going to die. You deserve death. And not only you, but everybody in your house, and everybody like you. So this is what he does. So he turns. Then the king said to the guards who stood about him, turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled and did not tell it to me. Now, look, I've read a lot of things in the Bible. If you go back to Deuteronomy and you read what is a sin that is worthy of the consequences of death, I don't read this anywhere in there. So basically what he's saying is, because you are not blindly loyal to me, you deserve to die. So he looks at his soldiers and he says, kill them. I want you to kill the priests. I want you to kill all of them. Now, how did the soldiers respond? But the servants of the king would not lift their hands to strike the priests of the Lord. You know what that's called? Civil disobedience. Not doing that. Now, this took a lot of courage from these guys, because this is a direct order from the king to do this action. And the soldiers are like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not killing the priest. I don't need that on my resume. Right? I don't need that standing before God. There is a time where we need to look at the government and say, I'm not going to do that. Now look, should we drive on the right side of the road? Yes. Should we obey the speed limits? Yes. If the government ever says, don't read your Bible, sorry, got to disobey that. There are points where there is a biblical grounds for civil disobedience. And this is an example of it. These are people who said, I'm not going to do that. So what does he do? Well, he reaches for this Doeg. It's interesting. I'm not sure if Doeg was the guy's name, but because the name Doeg means basically fearful or insecure. So I think Doeg had this kind of reputation as a guy that was always scared he's going to lose his job, because he worked for the king. So he's always nervous about losing his job, or he's always nervous about making people happy. And so he has kind of this nickname, because Saul doesn't seem to want to call anybody by their name, right? So it's like Doeg, the fearful one, the scared one. So he looks at Doeg, And he says, Doeg, you turn and kill the priest. So he's feeding on this kid who's massively insecure and afraid they're going to lose his job, and says, okay, you do it, Doeg. You do it, or you don't have a job anymore. Now, obviously, I'm reading between the lines. That's not in the text, but he does kind of feed on his insecurities and feed on his fear. So this is difficult, and this is the hard part of the passage, and this is difficult for me to kind of get my mind around, okay? So Doeg the Edomite turned and struck the priest and killed on that day 85 men who wore a linen ephod. Now what's disgusting here about this is it doesn't tell us how he killed them. It doesn't say that he killed them with a sword. So the implication is that he killed them with his bare hands. Did he break their necks? And did these guys just passively stand there and let him take them off one at a time? The text doesn't really say. We don't know. But we do know this, that he killed all 85 of the priests. And he doesn't stop there, because you never stop there. Now, and also Nob, the city of the priest, he struck with the edge of the sword. So we know that he got a sword and he went to Nob, and he says that he killed both men and women, children and nursing infants, oxen and donkey and sheep with the edge of the sword. Now, one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the Lord's priest. Listen to what David said. So David said to Abiathar, I knew that day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would surely tell Saul. And man, this had to be hard for him to say, because he probably lived with this the rest of his life. But listen to what he says. I have caused the death of all the persons of your father's house. What does he do? He takes ownership of it. All those priests dying, and everybody dying in Nob, and all that cattle dying, and all of that that's happened, it's on me. And this is the deal. God will forgive you, but you gotta own that the rest of your life. And David had to own it. And I believe that God did forgive him and God did use him, but the reality is when we do something, when you lie, it hurts people, and then it ultimately hurts you. Because it always comes back around. Lies always are shown in light of the truth. So this is what he says to Abiathar in verse 23. Stay with me, do not fear, for he who seeks my life seeks your life, but with me you shall be safe. Have you guys picked out who's the good guy and who's the bad guys in here? Hopefully you have. Let me give you 7 traits. Beware of these kind of leaders. 1, beware of leaders who intimidate. Beware of leaders that intimidate. Okay, what's he doing? He's setting, the first part of the story, where do we see Saul? He's sitting there, and what's he doing? Holding his sword. Holding his sword. What's he reminding of? I'll drive you all through. You don't obey me, I'll drive you all through. If you have a boss that's constantly threatening to fire you, get another person. Get another boss. Get another job. That's intimidation. If you've ever been reminded who signs your check, that's a form of intimidation. And if you've ever done that, that's wrong. Because you have power over someone doesn't mean that you should lord over them. And this is an intimidation tactic. Him holding the spear, probably the same spear that he tried to pin David to the wall, because it's just a reminder to all those around him, look, I tried to kill my son-in-law, I'll kill you too. That's why he's always got a spear in his hand. It's a means of intimidation. Beware of leaders that intimidate. Number 2, beware of leaders that belittle. Beware of leaders that belittle, that constantly put people down. They won't refer to them by their name. You're worthless, you're garbage, you're junk. Look, every parent in this room is a leader. Be careful what you say to your kids. You know, Bill Cosby got indicted this week, right? Got convicted, yeah, thank you, this week. He was convicted of and now I think, because I used to like to listen to Bill Cosby. And he used to have a little bit where he'd talk about how, my dad would say to me, son, I brought you in this world, I take you out, it doesn't matter to me, I'll make another one that looks just like you. Okay? I don't really think that's the way to talk to your kids. The belittling, putting down. Your kids are not worthless. They're children, they're people made in the image of God. They were formed in your womb by God. So beware of leaders who constantly put people down. It shows massive insecurity and fear in their own life. Always lowering people. Number 3, beware of leaders that bribe. Beware of leaders that bribe. They use their leadership and power to control people. Has money or power ever been used to bribe in the history of the world? Never, has it? Maybe once or twice. Hey, man, I'm going to give you this raise. You better take care of me. Okay, did they deserve the raise or not? Why are we bribing? And this is what we do with people. We use money to control them, to lord over them, power to do so. Stay away from leaders that bribe. Number 4, stay away from leaders that exaggerate. Exaggerate. All of you, verse 80 says, all of you have conspired against me. Had all of them conspired against him? Most of them were like, I don't even know what's going on. Right? They're like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. Why are we here? Ahimelech's like, I didn't know anything. But this is what happens to people that are in the grasp of sin. They think that everybody is against them, and they over-exaggerate everything. Nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. That's not true. Many of you in this room are deeply loved by a whole lot of people. So because one person rejects you doesn't mean everybody rejects you. Number 5, beware of leaders that manipulate. So what does he do here? He's like, he's trying to make them feel, not one of you feels sorry for me. And they're probably like, I don't feel sorry for the guy at all. He's the king. Whatever he says happens. He's the king. Why should I feel? But isn't it funny how that people in power try to manipulate those that are under them? We as a staff, we're reading a book right now, and I don't like the book at all. Because it's called Pleasing People. It's written by a guy named Lou. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Priolo. You know how to pronounce it? Amen. Good for you. Okay. I would try to Priolo, maybe. But anyway, but it's called Pleasing People. And if you read this book, I'm going to warn you right now, the first chapter and the 12th chapter will kick you right in the teeth. I mean, it's hard to read. The first chapter in particular, we just read the 12th chapter last week. So what we do is as a staff, as a pastoral staff, we pick a book all through the year we're reading some kind of book. And then we meet on Thursday to discuss it. We have a meeting, we discuss what we read and how it spoke to us. So in this last chapter we read about, he says, one of the signs that you're a people pleaser is you're constantly fishing for compliments. And you do it in vague ways. Like you go up to somebody and go, hey man, what'd you think of the service today? Well, I'm feeling insecure because I don't think the service went well, but I want you to hear, oh man, it was awesome. And I only do it to people that I know will give me a good answer. Right? But what is that called? That's called manipulation, right? Because it means I don't really want to know the truth. I just want to hear something that'll make me feel better. So I manipulate you by kind of leading you on with this discussion and question that maybe then will make you say, oh man, this was great and this was good. That's called manipulation. Don't manipulate people. That's what Saul's doing. He's trying to make everybody feel sorry for him. Like, oh, Saul, it's so hard being you. He's manipulating them. He's trying to make them feel sorry for him. So then that they'll do what do you want me to do, Saul? Oh, you want me to kill the priest? Okay, I'll kill the priest. 6, beware of leaders that overreact. Beware of leaders that overreact. What am I talking about? Leaders that will not hear the other side. That's what Ahimelech tries to come in and do. He tries to give some Saul some perspective. It's like, hey man, David is a good guy. I didn't know anything. He doesn't, his ears he's holding his ears. He doesn't hear a thing he says. And then what does he do? He's got so worked up that he overreacts. Okay, at worst, he helped somebody that is kind of running from Saul. But Ahimelech didn't know it. His problem was he was naive. His problem was he took David at his word. Is this worthy of death? No. But leaders do this all the time. They overreact, massively overreact. And it's good sometimes to step back and get some perspective. Stay away from leaders that overreact. And then 7, stay away from leaders that intentionally destroy. You know what's amazing to me? Remember several chapters ago, we read about how God, through the prophet Samuel, came to Saul and said, I want you to kill all of the Amalekites. Remember? Remember the Amalekites? They're people that kind of preyed on the weak of Israel. Remember Saul? These Amalekites are wicked people. It would be like a terrorist. It would be like people that have their conscience is seared. They have it is in a way time for them to go, and so God says, I want you to wipe them out. Remember, Saul couldn't do it. He saved the best of the cattle, and he saved the king Agag. Remember that? Here's a situation where he's so selfish that he can't kill all of the Amalekites, but he can kill every priest and every priest's wife and every priest's kids, even down to their infant child and all of their cattle, and have no conscience about it. Because what is he? What kind of leader is he? If you're not for me, I will destroy you. Beware of leaders like that. Because let me tell you, all they care about is themselves. That's it. God make us like Ahimelech and David. Follow leaders. Let's end with the positives, right? Follow leaders that, one, obey. That obey. Saul called Ahimelech. What did Ahimelech do? He came. Why did he come? Because his leader asked him to come. I wouldn't follow someone who doesn't think they need to obey anyone. I'm the boss. Kind of. You do understand, right, that God could snuff you out and God could pull the rug out from underneath you. You wouldn't be the boss anymore. So if I walk around with this arrogance, like I'm the boss and I'm better than everybody, if I'm unwilling to submit, do not follow someone who's not willing to submit themselves. Follow leaders that obey. Follow leaders, number 2, that respect others. Respect others. Saul is a shady guy, but how does Ahimelech refer to him when he shows up to him? Here I am, my Lord. Saul won't even call anybody by their first name. Ahimelech calls Saul my Lord. What's that called? That's called showing respect. Look, I may not like who is in a position of authority, but they are in a position of authority, so I should respect them. They were placed there by God. So I want to show respect, and this is what Ahimelech does. So follow people that show respect. Number 3, follow leaders that defend. Follow leaders that defend. Who does Ahimelech fight for? He does not fight for himself until he first fights for David. So he's using his power, he's using his influence to fight not for his own life, but for the life of David. He defends him. Follow leaders that will not stab you in the back when you're not around, but will defend you when you're not around. Number 4, follow leaders that tell the truth. Follow leaders that tell the truth. He told the truth in verse 15. Number 5, follow leaders that take responsibility. If you make a mistake as a leader, own it. Own it. You're not going to lose your credibility as a parent if you blow it with your kids. To then look at them and go, you know what? I was out of line. It's okay to look at your kids and go, and to ask for their forgiveness. Take responsibility for it. When you became a parent, you didn't stop sinning. And isn't it amazing how those kids can push the sin button, can't they? Right? So if you sin, if you lose your cool, if you freak out, if you do something take responsibility for it. Can I tell you, I think that I have so much more respect for somebody who comes to me and says, look, I blew it, I'm sorry, than somebody who acts like nothing happened. Own it. If you make a mistake as a leader, own it. Don't try to hide it. And that's what David does. David owns it. I knew it, man. I knew I shouldn't have lied to the priest, and I knew that Doeg would go back. I knew it. I knew it in my heart, and I just let it go. Number 6, follow leaders that encourage. Follow leaders that encourage. People that are under you should feel safe, not scared. Safe. Even in our frailty, people should leave our presence encouraged. And number 7, the 7th characteristic of a leader that we should follow is one that protects. I want to show you an interesting thing in this chapter, and then we'll go, okay? Look at verse 16. What were the last words of Saul in this chapter? You shall surely die. Right? That was the last words. Notice the last words of David in 23. For he who seeks my life will seek your life, but with me you'll be safe. That's an interesting contrast, isn't it? That you have Saul, when people leave his presence, it's like you're going to die. With David, you'll be safe. There is not a greater contrast in the Bible than this is what happens if you, as an individual, make Satan your Lord. You will die. If you make Jesus your Lord, you will be safe. That's why you have a choice. Follow God, follow Jesus Christ, follow His Word. This is the choice that we have. Or I can follow my gut. I can follow my sinful nature. I can follow my instincts. I can follow what the crowd wants. I can follow the devil. And if you follow him, it will lead to your demise. It will lead to your death. But if you follow Jesus, it leads to everlasting life. Because He will always protect you. You say, now, what about the priest? He died. You know where the priest opened his eyes the minute after he died? In the presence of God. He didn't go to hell. He went to heaven. And he is eternally safe. What did Jesus say? Don't fear the one that can destroy your body. There's a lot of people that could kill me. A lot of people could kill you. I mean, we're not exempt from terror. We're not exempt from people killing us. I mean, you know, I think about this. I like to ride my bike. And I got to admit, I get anxious when I ride my bike because I can hear cars coming. And this is what I'm thinking. Please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. Huh? As I'm pedaling and trying to hug the road as close as I can, you know, the side of the road. I'm like, please don't hit me. Please don't. So I could be killed. I could be killed riding my bike. I could be killed walking down the street. But I'll tell you this. I believe because Jesus is my Lord, God is my Father, that the minute I died on this earth, I would be in the presence of God, eternally safe forevermore. But man, if I'm doing my own thing and going my own way and ignoring the Word of God and putting my hands in the hand of Saul, in the hand of Satan, you know where that leads me to? Death. Let me just read what Jesus said to Nicodemus in John chapter 3. Remember, Nicodemus had a lot of questions about what it meant to be saved. And this is what Jesus said to Nicodemus in John 3. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Now, verse 18 is important. He who believes in him is not condemned, but he who does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. We have a great leader in Jesus who said, it's this way to life everlasting. Follow me. And we have a leader in Satan who is constantly accusing us, who is constantly belittling us, who is constantly intimidating us. Have you been intimidated that way? Have you ever felt like have you ever heard voices in your head that said you are worthless and the mistakes you have made, you are useless? And who are you? And what do you think you are? Who is all of that? That is the voice of the accuser putting you down. He wants to keep you under his thumb. And Jesus says, I offer you life, man. Just follow me. It's the better way. You have a God who loves you, gave himself for you, wants to protect you, cares for you, wants to lift you up, and you have an enemy that wants to pull you down. Man, if I could challenge you to do anything today, take that step from darkness to light. I'm not following. I'm going to practice some civil disobedience today. I'm going to turn my back on Satan and I'm going to follow Jesus. Because nobody loves me like Jesus.
Thank you again for listening to our series on 1 Samuel with Pastor Mark Doss. If you have questions about today's message, please contact our church office at info@topekabaptist.org. Give us a call at 785-862-0988 or check us out online at www.topekabaptist.org.